Some men get a golden anniversary. I get a golden shower of lawyers and betrayal. My name is Drew Walker, and 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Decent job as a yacht engineer at Clearwater Marina, a wife who still looked good in her 30s, 2 grown sons who didn't completely hate me. Then I walked into my own bedroom at 2 in the afternoon and found my wife Tessa getting more action than a Black Friday sale. The sleaze on top of her was Brett Garris, her boss at Morrison & Associates law firm. Balding, sweaty, driving a BMW he couldn't afford on a paralegal supervisor's salary. The kind of guy who thinks expensive cologne can mask the stench of desperation. "Jesus Christ, Drew!" Tessa shrieked, scrambling for the sheets. Brett rolled off like a beached whale, his pale gut jiggling as he grabbed for his pants. "This isn't what it looks like, man." I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, watching them fumble around like teenagers caught by their parents. Then something snapped. "Really, Brett? That's your opening line?" I stepped forward and grabbed him by what was left of his hair. "Let me tell you what this looks like." I yanked hard enough to make him yelp, then slapped him across the face. Not hard enough to break anything, but hard enough to leave a mark. "It looks like you've been screwing my wife in my bed wearing my favorite aftershave, probably eating my food afterward." Another slap. "Try this again, and I'll ruin more than your dental work." Brett stumbled toward the door, still pulling on his shirt. "You're crazy, Walker. Tessa, call me later." "Don't you dare," I said, blocking his path. "You call her, text her, even think about her, and I'll make sure your wife finds out exactly what kind of overtime you've been putting in." His face went white. Good. The coward had forgotten he was married too. After he fled, Tessa sat on our bed, my bed, wrapped in sheets that would never feel clean again. "Drew, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you're a cheating hoe, or that you're stupid enough to bring him here?" She flinched. "Don't call me that." "What would you prefer? Adulteress, backstabber, home wrecker?" "It just happened. We were working late and—" "Save it." I grabbed my truck keys from the dresser. "I'm done listening to your lies. Where are you going? Somewhere that doesn't smell like betrayal and cheap cologne." I drove straight to the liquor store, bought a bottle of bourbon, and parked in the Walmart lot. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Tessa, missed calls, voicemails I didn't want to hear. Each message made me angrier. "Drew, please come home. We need to talk. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I made a mistake. Don't throw away 20 years over this." 20 years. 2 decades of marriage, of building something together, of trusting her completely. And she threw it away for Brett freaking Garris. I was halfway through the bourbon when my phone rang again. This time it was my brother Jay. "Drew, you sound like heck. Feel worse than I sound." "What happened?" I told him. All of it. The bedroom scene, the confrontation, Brett's pathetic excuses. Jesus. "I'm sorry, man. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I'm not going home tonight. Come stay with me. We'll figure this out." I was about to agree when Jay said something that changed everything. "Actually, there's something I need to show you. I was cleaning out Dad's attic last week and found a box of old tapes. One of them has your name on it. Drew, what's on that tape changes everything you thought you knew about Mom." The bourbon turned to ice in my stomach. "What kind of tape? You need to see it for yourself. But if you think Tessa betrayed you, wait until you hear what Dad kept hidden for 30 years. I stared at my phone after he hung up. In one afternoon, my entire world had collapsed. My wife was a cheater, my marriage was over, and now my brother was telling me my family had been lying to me my whole life. "Screw you both," I said to the empty truck. "I'm done being the fool." Jay lived in a small house on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where neighbors minded their own business and the police rarely bothered to patrol. I pulled up at 2:30 in the morning, still half drunk and completely furious. He was waiting on the porch with a beer and a cardboard box. "You look like death," he said. "Feel worse." "What's in the box?" "Dad's confession tapes. He made them before he died, left instructions for me to give them to you if anything ever happened to your marriage." I stared at him. He knew about Tessa? Not specifically, but he knew you deserved the truth about our family before you made any major life decisions. We went inside. Jay's living room was sparse, a couch, a TV, and not much else. He'd never married and never had kids. Always said he didn't want the complications. Maybe he was smarter than me, I muttered. Jay pulled out an old cassette player and a tape labeled "For Drew, the truth about your mother." "You sure you want to hear this tonight? You're pretty drunk." I'm not nearly drunk enough. Play it. Dad's voice filled the room, weaker than I remembered, but unmistakably his. Drew, if you're hearing this, something's happened that made Jay think you needed to know the truth. I should have told you years ago, but I was a coward. Your mother, the woman you knew as your mother, wasn't your biological mother. She died when you were 2. The room spun. I gripped the arm of the couch. Your real mother was my sister-in-law, Sarah. She was married to my brother Tom, but Tom died in Vietnam. Sarah was pregnant with you when he shipped out. After he died, she couldn't handle raising a child alone. When my wife died in that car accident, Sarah and we found comfort in each other. I looked at Jay. That makes us half-brothers, he said quietly. Different mothers. Dad's voice continued. Sarah died when you were 5, cancer. I told everyone she was your aunt visiting to help with you boys. I never corrected people when they assumed my dead wife was your mother. It seemed easier, less complicated. Less complicated, I repeated. Jesus Christ. I know this is a shock, son, but I want you to know that Sarah loved you more than life itself. She made me promise to raise you as my own, to never let you feel different or unwanted. I hope I kept that promise. The tape continued for another 20 minutes. Dad explaining details about Sarah, about the cover-up, about the lies he'd told to protect what he thought was my emotional well-being. When it ended, I sat in silence for a long time. So let me get this straight, I finally said. My wife is screwing her boss in our bed, and my entire family history is a lie. My real mother died when I was 5, the woman I thought was my mother died when I was 2, and you're only my half-brother. That about covers it. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. You know what the funny part is? All these years, I thought I was the lucky one. Good marriage, stable family, everything figured out. Turns out my family tree is less a tree, more like kudzu, twisted, invasive, and choking out everything healthy. Jay opened another beer and handed it to me. So what are you going to do? I thought about Tessa, probably at home right now planning her defense, figuring out how to spin this to make me the bad guy. I thought about Brett, probably calling his lawyer, worried about his own marriage and career. I'm going to do what Dad should have done 30 years ago. I'm going to stop being a coward and start telling the truth. What does that mean? I stood up, suddenly feeling more sober than I had all night. It means no one screws me over and walks away. Anymore. Tessa wants to play games? Brett thinks he can steal my wife and face no consequences? They're about to learn that the nice guy they've been taking advantage of just died in this room. Jay grinned. About time. What's the plan? First, I gather evidence. Real evidence. Not just hurt feelings and accusations. Then I make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of people they're dealing with. Revenge? Justice. There's a difference. I was lying, of course. This was going to be revenge. Pure and simple. But after a lifetime of being the good guy, the understanding husband, the man who always took the high road, I was ready to explore the scenic route through the gutter. Time for some house cleaning, I said. The next morning, I started my new career as a private investigator. First stop, Bob Martinez, my business partner at the marina, and the closest thing I had to a best friend. You look like heck, Bob said when I walked into our office. So everyone keeps telling me. I need a favor. I told him about Tessa and Brett, leaving out the family drama for now. Bob listened without interrupting, occasionally shaking his head. That sucks, man. What do you need? Help gathering evidence. You still have that surveillance equipment from when we were having trouble with boat thieves? Yeah, but Drew, you sure you want to go down this road? Maybe you should try counseling first. Bob, I walked in on them screwing in my bed. The time for counseling passed when Brett's pants hit my bedroom floor. He sighed. All right, what's the plan? We spent the morning setting up a surveillance operation that would have made the FBI proud. Bob had connections in the tech world, guys who could track phones and hack into email accounts without leaving fingerprints. Not exactly legal, but not exactly illegal either if you knew the right loopholes. First rule of intelligence gathering, Bob said, programming a small recording device. People love to talk, especially when they think no one important is listening. That evening, I put the plan into action. Tessa's friend group met every Thursday at Murphy's Bar for what they called Wine and Wine Night. 3 middle-aged women getting drunk and sharing gossip about everyone they knew. I sat at the far end of the bar, nursing a beer and pretending to watch the game. The recording device, disguised as a phone charger, sat on the table next to theirs. Tessa wasn't there, probably afraid to face her friends after yesterday's drama. But Becky and Carla were in fine form. I still can't believe she did it in their house, Becky said, loud enough for half the bar to hear. With Brett, of all people, Carla added. I mean, the man's got the body of a melted candle and the personality of wet cardboard. But he's got stamina, Becky giggled. Remember what Tessa said about their first time? 3 rounds in his office? My grip tightened on my beer bottle. Poor Drew, Carla said, though she didn't sound particularly sympathetic. He never saw it coming. Tessa always said he was boring in bed. Well, he's about to get a lot more exciting. Divorce court tends to bring out the worst in people. They kept talking for another hour, sharing details about Tessa's affair that made my stomach turn. Apparently, this had been going on for 6 months. Brett had been buying her expensive gifts, taking her to fancy hotels, even brought her to his house when his wife was out of town. She said his wife suspects something, Becky said. Found a receipt for jewelry in his coat pocket. What did he tell her? That it was for his secretary's birthday. They laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. When they finally left, I had 2 hours of recorded conversation, enough dirt to bury both Tessa and Brett. But I was just getting started. The next day, I followed Brett to work. His BMW was easy to spot in the law firm's parking lot. Vanity plates that read Lawman 1. The guy had no shame. I waited until lunch, then made my move. Bob had given me a bag of fish guts from the marina, the kind of stuff that would smell like death in a closed car. I emptied it into Brett's air conditioning vents, then used a knife to put a small hole in each tire. Not enough to cause an accident, but enough to leave him stranded. Then I waited. Brett came out of the building at 5:30 talking on his phone, probably to Tessa. He got in his car, started the engine, and immediately began gagging as the smell hit him. I filmed the whole thing from across the street. Brett stumbling out of his car, dry heaving in the parking lot, frantically calling someone, probably AAA, about his tires. The video was comedy gold. I uploaded it to the local gossip Facebook group with the caption, "When you're so full of crap, even your car can't stand you." It got 50 likes in the first hour. But my favorite part came next. As Brett stood there looking helpless, Carla walked out of the building. She spotted him immediately. "Brett, what happened to your car?" "Someone vandalized it. Probably one of our clients. You know how people get when they lose custody cases." Carla looked suspicious. "Smells like fish. Yeah, they put fish guts in my vents. Sick idiots. That's awful. Do you need a ride? Actually, could you call Tessa? Tell her I need her to pick me up?" Carla's expression changed. "Why would I call Tessa?" Brett realized his mistake too late. "I just meant, she's still in the building, right? Brett, Tessa left an hour ago, and why would you need her specifically to pick you up? Can't you call your wife?" The silence stretched between them. I could see the gears turning in Carla's head. "Oh my God," she said finally. "You and Tessa, it's true, isn't it?" Brett tried to deny it, but the damage was done. Carla stormed back into the building, probably to spread the news to anyone who would listen. I drove home feeling better than I had in days. The war was just beginning, and I was already winning. By Friday morning, half the town knew about Tessa and Brett. The gossip network in a place like Clearwater worked faster than the internet. By the time I got to the marina, 3 different people had already offered their condolences. "Sorry about your wife, Drew," said Tommy, one of our regular customers. "My ex pulled the same crap. It gets better." "Thanks, Tommy. How'd you hear about it?" "My wife saw the video you posted. Funny stuff. That guy looked like he was going to puke his guts out." I spent the morning working on a yacht engine, trying to focus on something other than my collapsing marriage. But around noon, my phone started buzzing with texts from Tessa. "We need to talk. This has gone far enough. You're embarrassing both of us. Call me back or I'm coming to the marina." I ignored them all. Let her sweat. An hour later, she showed up. Tessa looked like heck. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail and she wasn't wearing makeup. The stress was getting to her. "Drew, we need to talk. Privately." "Nothing private between us anymore, sweetheart. You made sure of that when you screwed Brett in our bed." Several of the marina workers had stopped what they were doing to watch. Tessa noticed and lowered her voice. "Please, can we go somewhere else?" "Why? Embarrassed? Funny how that works." Bob appeared at my elbow. "Everything okay here, Drew?" Just fine. My wife was just leaving. I'm not leaving until we talk, Tessa said, raising her voice. This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. A child? I'm acting like a child? I laughed loud enough for everyone to hear. Lady, I came home to find you getting plowed by your boss, and I'm the one acting like a child? The marina went dead quiet. Even the seagulls seemed to stop squawking. Tessa's face turned red. You don't have to broadcast it to everyone. Why not? You didn't seem too concerned about privacy when you were moaning his name in my bedroom. That's enough. The voice came from behind Tessa. Brett had arrived, looking like he'd slept in his car, which, given the fish gut situation, he probably had. Stay out of this, Brett, I said, unless you want another close encounter with my fist. You can't threaten me, Walker. I'll call the police. Go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear about your workplace affair with a subordinate. Pretty sure that violates your firm's ethics policy. Brett's face went pale. He hadn't thought about that angle. Look, he said, trying to sound reasonable. We're all adults here. These things happen. No one meant for anyone to get hurt. These things happen. I stepped toward him. You mean adultery just happens? Like the weather? Drew, please, Tessa said. Let's go home and talk about this like civilized people. Home? That place stopped being home the minute you brought him into our bed. And civilized? You want to talk about civilized? I pulled out my phone and played the recording from Murphy's bar. Becky's voice filled the marina. She said his wife suspects something. Found a receipt for jewelry in his coat pocket. Tessa's mouth fell open. You recorded us? Recorded your friends? Amazing what people say when they think no one's listening. 3 rounds in his office, Tessa? Really? And I'm boring in bed? Brett grabbed Tessa's arm. We're leaving. This is harassment. I blocked their path. You're not going anywhere until we settle a few things. Like the fact that you've been buying my wife jewelry with money you probably embezzled from client accounts. That's a serious accusation, Brett said, but his voice shook. Want to make a bet? I've got friends who can trace financial records. Want to find out what they discover? The truth was, I had no idea if Brett was embezzling money, but the look of panic on his face suggested I'd hit close to home. This is insane, Tessa said. Drew, you're scaring me. Good, you should be scared. You threw away 20 years of marriage for this pathetic excuse for a man. Now you get to live with the consequences. What consequences? Brett asked. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Well, for starters, everyone in town knows what you did. Your wife probably knows by now. I made sure someone would tell her. Your boss definitely knows because Carla couldn't wait to spread the news, and by Monday morning, the State Bar Association will know too. You can't prove anything, Brett said, but he was sweating. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to raise questions. Amazing how quickly a career can collapse when people start asking the right questions. Tessa started crying. Drew, please. I know I made a mistake, but we can work through this. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is bouncing a check. Screwing your boss for 6 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Your choice. That's months. Brett looked at Tessa in surprise. You told him 6 months? The marina erupted in whispers. Even Brett hadn't known how long the affair had been going on. How long, Tessa? I asked quietly. She couldn't meet my eyes. Does it matter? It matters to me. How long? A year, she whispered. A year. 12 months of lies, of coming home to me after being with him, of pretending to be a loving wife while screwing another man. Get out, I said. Drew, get out of here before I do something we'll all regret. Both of you. Get out of my sight. They left, Brett practically dragging Tessa to his rental car. The marina stayed quiet until they were gone. Heck of a show, Bob said finally. It's not over, I replied. Not even close. Monday morning brought the lawyers. Tessa had hired Morrison & Associates, Brett's firm, which seemed like a conflict of interest to me. But what did I know? I was just the wronged husband. My lawyer was Janet Pierce, a sharp-tongued woman in her 50s who specialized in messy divorces. She had the kind of reputation that made other lawyers nervous. Your wife's making some interesting claims, Janet said, spreading papers across her desk. Says you threatened her and her friend. Says you've been stalking them, harassing them at work. I confronted them publicly. There's a difference. She's also claiming emotional misuse. Says you've been controlling and manipulative throughout the marriage. I laughed. Controlling? I didn't even know she was screwing her boss for a year. If I was controlling, I was pretty bad at it. She wants spousal support, half the house, and she's threatening to fight for custody of any future assets. We don't have kids at home. Our sons are grown. She's thinking ahead, wants to make sure you can't cut her out of your will. The audacity was breathtaking. She cheats on me, destroys our marriage, and now wants to be rewarded for it. What are our options? Janet smiled. It was the kind of smile that probably made opposing lawyers consider career changes. Well, adultery is still grounds for divorce in this state, and if we can prove she was having an affair, it affects spousal support. The recordings you made help, but we need more. What kind of more? Financial records, hotel receipts, witness testimony, the works. I spent the next week gathering evidence like I was building a criminal case. Bob helped using his tech connections to trace credit card transactions and phone records. We found hotel charges, restaurant bills, even a weekend trip to Portland that Tessa had told me was a legal conference. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Becky. She called me on Thursday evening sounding nervous. "Drew, it's Becky. Can we meet? I have something you need to know." We met at a coffee shop across town away from the usual gossip network. "I feel terrible about this," she said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "But what Tessa's doing isn't right." Inside were printed emails between Tessa and Brett, going back 14 months. The early ones were flirtatious but innocent. The later ones were explicit enough to make me blush. "How did you get these?" Tessa forwarded some of them to me and Carla. She thought they were funny. I kept them because they were shocking. I never thought I'd need them for something like this. The emails painted a picture of a calculated affair. Tessa hadn't just fallen into Brett's arms. She'd pursued him, planned their encounters, even researched divorce law to see how an affair might affect a settlement. "There's more," Becky said. "Tessa's been talking to a private investigator. She's trying to dig up dirt on you." "What kind of dirt?" "Financial stuff, mostly. She thinks you've been hiding money from her." I almost laughed. I was a yacht mechanic, not a hedge fund manager. The most money I'd ever hidden was the $50 I kept in my toolbox for emergencies. "She's also been talking to your sons." That stopped me cold. "What?" "She called Jimmy last week. Told him you'd been controlling and aggressive, that she was afraid of you. She's trying to turn them against you." My sons. Jimmy was 21, a college athlete with a quick temper and a protective streak. Sid was 24, quieter and more thoughtful, but fiercely loyal to family. If Tessa was trying to manipulate them, "I have to go," I said, standing up. "Drew, wait. There's one more thing. Tessa and Brett aren't just having an affair. They're planning to leave town together. Brett's been interviewing for jobs in other states." The pieces clicked together. This wasn't just about love or even love. This was about Tessa wanting a new life, and she was willing to destroy me to get it. "Why are you telling me this?" Becky looked ashamed. "Because I've known you both for 15 years. You're a good man, Drew. You don't deserve this." I drove straight to Jimmy's apartment. He was home studying for finals, and he looked surprised to see me. "Dad, what's up?" "We need to talk about your mother and me." "She already told me," he said, not meeting my eyes. "About the divorce, about how you've been treating her. What exactly did she tell you? That you've been controlling and jealous? That you threatened her and her friend from work?" I sat down heavily on his couch. "Jimmy, your mother has been having an affair for over a year. I caught them together in our house, in our bed. I never threatened anyone. That's not what she said. I'm sure it isn't. Let me ask you something. When have I ever lied to you? When have I ever been controlling or hurtful?" Jimmy was quiet for a long moment. "Never," he admitted. "Then why would I start now?" I showed him the emails, the hotel receipts, the recorded conversations from Murphy's bar. I watched his face change as the evidence piled up. "She lied to me," he said finally. "She's been lying to everyone. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Jimmy looked at the evidence again, his jaw tightening. "We're going to make sure everyone knows the truth." "That's my boy." The next morning, Jimmy called his brother Sid. By noon, both of them were at my apartment, planning what Jimmy called Operation Truth Bomb. "Mom's been telling people, you're the bad guy," Sid said. "Time to set the record straight." "What did you have in mind?" Jimmy grinned. It was the same grin he'd had as a kid when he was planning mischief. "Social media, Dad. Mom's been using Facebook to spread her version of the story. Time for some fact-checking." They created a post that was masterful in its simplicity. No accusations, no name-calling, just facts. The timeline of the affair, copies of the hotel receipts, and a simple statement. Sometimes the truth is different from what you hear. Within hours, it had been shared dozens of times. The comments section was brutal. I always knew Brett was a creep. Poor Drew. 20 years of marriage down the drain. Tessa should be ashamed of herself. But the real victory came that evening. Carla called, sounding panicked. Drew, it's Carla. I owe you an apology. I had no idea how bad this was. What do you mean? Brett's wife found out. She's filing for divorce too, and she's naming Tessa as co-respondent. It's going to be in the newspaper. Co-respondent. In a small town like Clearwater, that was social death. There's more, Carla continued. The law firm fired Brett this afternoon. Apparently someone tipped off the state bar about his affair with a subordinate. I smiled. Someone. Right. And Tessa. Drew, she's falling apart. She's been calling everyone, trying to explain, but nobody wants to hear it. She burned too many bridges. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Satisfaction. Not happiness, not yet, but satisfaction. The truth was finally coming out, and Tessa was learning that actions have consequences. But I wasn't done, not even close. Tessa's counterattack came on Friday morning. I was at the marina when Detective Maria Sanchez showed up, looking official and serious. Mr. Walker, I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with your wife. What kind of questions? She's filed a complaint alleging harassment and stalking. Says you've been following her, threatening her, interfering with her work. I almost laughed. Detective, my wife has been having an affair for over a year. I exposed it. That's not stalking, that's truth-telling. She says you put fish guts in her boyfriend's car. Can she prove that? Detective Sanchez smiled slightly. No, she can't. But I have to investigate all complaints. Where were you Tuesday afternoon between 3 and 5? Right here, working on a yacht engine. Bob Martinez can verify that. Plus, we have security cameras. Mind if I take a look? We spent an hour going through the security footage. It clearly showed me at the marina during the time Brett's car was vandalized. Detective Sanchez seemed satisfied. Between you and me, she said as she prepared to leave, your wife's complaint seemed a little desperate, like she was grasping at straws. Desperate people do desperate things. Just keep your nose clean, Mr. Walker. Don't give her any real ammunition. After she left, Bob shook his head. Tessa's really trying to paint you as the bad guy. It's not working. But we need to be smarter about this, more careful. That's when Becky called with information that changed everything. Drew, you need to know something. Tessa and Brett are planning to leave town this weekend. Brett got a job offer in Seattle and they're driving out together. Running away? It gets worse. Tessa's been moving money around. She emptied your joint savings account yesterday. A chill shot through me. How much? $15,000. She also maxed out the joint credit cards. Theft, financial fraud. She was trying to clean me out before disappearing with her boyfriend. There's more. She's been telling people she's afraid you're going to hurt her. She's building a case to make you look dangerous so she can justify running away. I hung up and immediately called Janet Pierce. She can't just take all our money and leave the state, I said. Actually, she can. It's a joint account, so legally she has access. But the timing looks suspicious, especially if she's planning to flee. We can get a restraining order to freeze the remaining assets. Do it. Drew, I have to ask, are you planning anything inadvisable? Like what? Like confronting them before they leave town? Like doing something that might give credence to her claims that you're dangerous? I thought about it. The old Drew, the nice guy who always took the high road, would have let them go, would have fought it out in court, followed proper procedures, been the better man. But the old Drew was dead. He died in that bedroom when I found my wife with another man. I'm going to stop them from leaving, I said. Drew, legally. I'm going to stop them legally. It wasn't entirely a lie. My plan was mostly legal. I spent Friday evening preparing. Bob helped, though he kept asking if I was sure about this. She stole 15 grand and she's trying to flee the state, I said. I'm not letting her get away with it. What if she really is afraid of you? What if she's running because she thinks you might hurt her? Then she shouldn't have screwed me over in the first place. Saturday morning, I put my plan into action. First, I called the police and reported the theft of the joint account money. Detective Sanchez took the report, noting the suspicious timing. We can issue a bolo for her car, she said. If she's trying to leave the state with stolen funds, that's a felony. Next, I called my sons. They were already angry about Tessa's lies, and the news about the money pushed them over the edge. She stole from you? Jimmy was furious. That's it, we're done protecting her. What do you need us to do? Sid asked. Help me find them. They're probably at a hotel somewhere. Getting ready to leave town? It didn't take long. Brett was predictable. He always chose expensive places to impress women. We found his rental car at the Clearwater Grand Hotel, the fanciest place in town. Now what? Jimmy asked. Now we have a conversation. I walked into the hotel lobby like I owned the place. The desk clerk looked nervous when I asked for Brett Garris's room number. I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give out that information. Then call his room and tell him Drew Walker's here to see him. Tell him it's about the $15,000. 5 minutes later, Brett appeared in the lobby, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Drew, what are you doing here? Stopping a thief from leaving town? Where's my money, Brett? I don't know what you're talking about. $15,000 from my joint account with Tessa. Money she stole yesterday. That wasn't stealing. It was her money, too. Funny timing, though. Taking all our savings the day before you skipped town. Brett looked around nervously. The lobby was full of people, and our conversation was drawing attention. Look, let's go somewhere private and talk about this. No, we're talking right here, right now. Where's Tessa? She's upstairs, packing. Get her, now. Drew, she's afraid of you. She doesn't want to see you. I laughed loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. She's afraid of me? She should be afraid of prison. Theft is a felony, Brett. It's not theft. Tell it to the police. I filed a report this morning. Brett's face went white. You called the cops? You're absolutely right, I did. Amazing how quickly they respond when you report someone stealing $15,000 and fleeing the state. As if on cue, Detective Sanchez walked through the hotel's front door, along with 2 uniformed officers. Mr. Walker, she said, is this the man you were telling me about? Brett looked like he was going to faint. This is harassment. No, Detective Sanchez said. This is a felony investigation. Mr. Garris, we need to speak with you and Mrs. Walker about some missing funds. I want a lawyer, Brett said immediately. That's your right, but first, we need Mrs. Walker to come downstairs. The elevator doors opened, and Tessa stepped out, dragging a suitcase. She saw me and stopped dead. Hello, sweetheart, I said. Going somewhere?